Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your hosts on this journey.
This podcast is created in partnership with Pennsylvania ASCD.
All right. What is going on, SEL and EDU family? We are so excited to have you here again for an incredible conversation we're going to be having soon. How are you doing, Krista?
Oh, I'm good. And I know we've talked about this before, but we do a check-in, but we also know that the podcast is going to drop a couple weeks later. But so right now I am gearing up to be an empty nester this weekend. Both of my boys are my 18-year-old is heading off to school tomorrow. My 22-year-old is heading off on Sunday. So I'm taking in the goodness of being with them in these last couple days, and also figuring what life is going to be like when they're away for months. So, but I'm super proud of them, and I never thought this day would come. So, how are you doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing pretty well. It feels warm in my heart to have seen your young men growing up over the years,
Yes.
and that is like it has me blushing just to think about the journey. And they have an incredible mom, so awesome.
Thank you. Well, and for those of us who may have or may have the listeners who may have just popped in, Craig and I have known each other since 2012. So when I mentioned, I mean, he's known my kids or have seen them for 11 years. So, it's been quite a journey.
Yes. Oh my. Well, I am as excited as one can be to just be in great company today. We have an incredible guest who is going to join us. Right now, it's summer, but by the time you hear this, it could be fall. So I'm excited about the fact that one, it's not 100 degrees, at least where I am here in Boston. And I'm anticipating apple picking season coming. I love apple picking. So maybe by the time this comes out, people might be out with their bags packing up apples of all sorts and all that good stuff. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yes. Well, I want to follow up on that and invite our guest into that conversation as well with the apple picking. So
Yes.
without further ado, we are incredibly excited to have the amazing Sarah Thomas. So Sarah is a regional technology coordinator in a large district in Maryland and the founder of EduMatch, which I can't wait to ask you about. This organization empowers educators to make global connections across common areas of interest. She has spoken and presented internationally, participated in the technical working group to refresh the 2017 ISTE Standards for Education, and is the recipient of the ISTE Making It Happen Award. Sarah is the co-author of the ISTE Digital Equity Series, Closing the Gap, and the 2023 Maryland Society for Educational Technology Outstanding Leader Using Technology Award winner. Woo! Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So I really loved meeting you in person at ISTE and now, reconnecting on this platform.
Yes, that was the highlight of my ISTE trip. So I didn't actually go to all of the conference, but people have told me you have to go to the convention and just walk around the convention center. So I did, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is Sarah. This is hi. So
I was so happy to meet you
across all the social things. And so I've been following you through EduMatch, and I would love for our listeners to know more about EduMatch. Would you mind sharing a bit about your vision and how it's evolved over time?
Yeah, totally. So EduMatch is kind of like the little company that almost was not. So long story short, it came about on a Friday night. I was chatting with a friend of mine on the Voxer app, and she had she was looking for tips for a teacher in her district who was wanting to do gamification in math. And I said, oh, my cousin did that. And, he could probably talk to you about that. And we know this other guy who can talk to you about that too. And I was just like, wait a minute, is there something that's going to connect person A to person B to person C? And so I looked, of course there were Twitter chats, there were Voxer groups, there were things of that nature, but there was nothing that like facilitated that direct introduction. So that's when like kind of the prototype of EduMatch was born. Just kind of set up a Google form, had people tell me about themselves, and I would tweet it out, different things about them using hashtags. And as people signed up on the Google form, then I'd like match, I'd tag other matches and stuff like that. And then folks were just like, okay, well, could we start a Voxer group? Could we do a podcast? Could we have an ed camp? And all of these ideas, we just kind of went with them. That led to the publishing. Eventually we had a nonprofit. We still have a nonprofit. And let's see what else. And then the professional learning is the newest branch. So, and I was just thinking today, EduMatch is actually 3 companies. So this just hit me today. EduMatch is 3 companies under one brand, but there's the EduMatch, original EduMatch. There's EduMatch Foundation Incorporated, which is the nonprofit, and there is EduMatch Professional Learning, which they're all 3 separate entities, but they are all under one umbrella.
That's incredible. And so can our listeners, if they're still interested, can they still connect on EduMatch to be able to find people who have common interests and to learn from one another?
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's multiple different points of entry. We brought back the person of the day, which is where we first started. So there is a form available. I haven't been that great at keeping up with it. Truth be told, I tried to bring it back now in the age of Chat GPT and everything's automated. I'm still trying to debug the code. But once that gets rolling, then, we'll be able to do it, and just have it kind of automate itself. But there's other points of entry. There's a Facebook group. We still have the Voxer community. We still have, I'm going to call it Twitter. We still have a Twitter, account. We still have Instagram. We're pretty much everywhere. So would love to connect with your listeners.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll make sure that we have those links attached to the notes for our session so that people can continue to connect with each other.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I am curious how before we get deeper into the conversation today, how's your heart? How are you holding up today?
Oh, thank you so much for checking in. I'm doing pretty well for the most part. There's peaks and valleys, and I've gone through them all this week, but I would say ended up net on top. So that's a good week. That is definitely a good week. And what about you?
Well, this right here is a gift. I recognize that this moment right here is a gift. And so having an opportunity to just lean into it, lean into the conversation, lean into whatever comes is where we need to be today. So I'm most grateful.
Totally.
So one of the, I'm gonna get to your blog. One of the recent, pieces that I saw that really galvanized my thought process, and I'm curious, but I guess for folks right now who are trying to harness the genius of ChatGPT, for you who is an incredible genius of ed tech, social emotional learning, equity work. You really do a deep dive into what it means to be a leader in these days. That's going to connect to one of the blog posts that you've posted. So I'm just curious for you, for our listeners who are also going to lean in. The AI world can feel scary. It can feel very daunting. It's all encompassing. But I'm curious for you, what have you felt, or what do you feel is exciting for your entry point? What are you pushing, I guess, as like, hey, I want y'all to try this thing out. Like, don't get scared of it. And what are some things that you have some curiosities to when you think about just our ability to leverage AI, leverage ChatGPT in our classrooms, in our schools, in our communities today?
Oh my goodness, that is such a great question. And I feel like I could talk for like an hour on that alone. So,
Okay.
but I'll try to restrain myself a little bit. And I'll just kind of hit on your question on a few different ways. So, in my district work, then I am now the AI point person for my district. And I was kind of selected for that role because I've embraced it a lot in my personal life, as well as through EduMatch. We did a community forum for EduMatch back in January where we brought a panel together and we were all talking about artificial intelligence. And I think that this was pivotal because at the time, a lot of people didn't really know what it was. We were all trying to figure out the implications together, things of that nature. And I'm speaking primarily of generative AI, stuff like the ChatGPT, the Midjourney, et cetera. And that conversation kind of brought about some other conversations. I was able to speak on some panels, so I'm very grateful for those opportunities. But yeah, there's just so much. Right now, we are in a position in my district where we are looking at how we can address it from all stakeholder levels. So talking about our students, talking about our educators, talking about our parents. So making sure that security, privacy are paramount. But I think that the approach that we're taking, and I don't want to misspeak, but I believe that the approach that we're trying to take is to just say, okay, be mindful of this, be mindful of this, be mindful of this. But we want to create that culture of innovation. So, definitely embrace it, explore it, be safe. We'll teach you how to be safe, but, so that's kind of where it is on the district side of things. Now, I'll just take a little detour and jump into the EduMatch side of things. So your question is extremely timely because at the time of this recording, this week, the EduMatch Foundation Incorporated Board, our nonprofit 501c3 foundation, unanimously voted to sponsor a virtual artificial intelligence exploration through EduMatch. So we're going to have, in other words, an AI conference, so to speak, virtually. And it's going to be the tentative date, which I think will stick, will be October 7th from 12 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. And we picked that time strategically because we felt that most of the people, most of the folks in our community would be able to attend. We do have some international folks, so we're also recording it and we're going to make the recordings available as well. But we want to definitely have this, and in the nature of equity, then it is a free conference, so everyone will be able to attend for free. There is an option to support the work of the foundation. If folks want to give a donation, then that's always appreciated. And with that donation, we'll be able to support the grassroots work of educators. But yeah, so we have that. And the day before that, then I was speaking with some of the great folks over at Flip, and just kind of bouncing ideas around. And I just set up a Google site, but it's powered by Flipgrid. Like everything behind it just links to Flipgrid with different roles for people to go in and say whatever their role is. Like let's say I'm a teacher. I click on where it says teachers and introduce myself and just kind of share my thoughts, my wonderings, what have you, about artificial intelligence. And we're hopefully, in conjunction with the virtual event, we'll be able to fill it up with all of these great thoughts from folks, and then fingers crossed, synthesize that into a report and just kind of put that back out in the community. So that's kind of a very long answer to your question, but it's a topic that, we're very passionate about because it's a game changer in education right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited about this too, because we are going to ensure that we get this out before those October dates, because we want the listeners to get access to these free resources and to be able to put their voice out there and hear what they're thinking, what they're wondering, what they're dreaming of doing, given all of these resources that can seem scary, but I really do think when used carefully can help us do things more efficiently, that can help our students become more innovative, more creative, better critical thinkers. And so I really love that mission. And thank you for keeping equity in mind too, and being able to offer that for everybody.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that everyone who wants to participate can participate.
Yeah, thank you. And so we'll make sure that we also get the links. I did see that you would put that out, that this was coming. So we'll make sure that we'll get the links that we can put up there so that people can access everything.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. So I have two questions, and I'll let you kind of pick where you want to go with it, because I saw that in some of the work that you focus on gamification. And that was one of my first entry points into technology as a tech coach many, many years ago. And I loved it for the engagement and motivation for students, but then also how it connected to social emotional learning and could really help students find their voice and to be able to share their voice through technology. And along with that, one of the sessions that you spoke on was called Making Friends in a Hurry. And I don't know if you remember this, but I saw you called it using the Fast Friends procedure. And there was a researcher who came up with that. And so I think about how can we use technology and gamification to really make connections with people and to help them find who they are and to create a sense of self. And I'm also thinking about, as an introvert myself, I'm like, even going into PD, I'm like, oh God, who am I going to talk to? And do I know people? And are they going to make me get up and do icebreakers, which I understand the point. But I'm wondering if you could talk on one of those two pieces, either around where you still see gamification maybe able to happen in education or still happening, and then what you might recommend in terms of connecting people in the classroom or connecting staff using technology.
Yeah, those are both very, very good questions, and they speak to passions of mine. So regarding the gamification, then I always like to quote Jane McGonigal, who is, I see your face. She is she is just so awesome and a leading researcher in the field of gamification. And I love what you were saying about how gamification means so much more than just the game. It can really effectively help people shape who they are, and I remember there was a video that she has that I use in my presentations a lot of times. And she was talking about different things to gamify. And she was just like, well, we incentivize what we want to see. And do we want people to be more productive with emails, or do we want them to be a better, kinder, human being? So a lot of those things, keeping those in mind when we create our games. One thing that happened in her life that really resonated with me as well, because I had the same thing happen in my life. She got a really bad concussion at one point. And she did not know, if she was going to come back from it, how she was going to come back from it. So she gamified it. She made a game called Super Better. And she gave herself points for being able to do certain things. And thankfully for me, my concussion wasn't that bad. It was a very bad one, but it was not as bad as hers. And I did recover. But I wish I had that Super Better resource, because I feel like that would have made the journey just that much more enjoyable and maybe even more productive even. So yeah. And just to kind of speak to your second question as well about the need for connection, I can totally relate to what you're saying, because I'm also an introvert. It's very hard for me to speak with strangers. And I know that Fast Friends protocol just kind of throws that in people's face, and it can be very intense. But I love the fact that when people do commit to it, then it really brings down the guards. And people are able to, effectively make a friend in a very short period of time, because the research pretty much scaffolded a list of, I want to say 36 questions going in order from least vulnerable to most vulnerable. And usually when we have sessions, we don't have time to get all the way through the list, but people might get to question 10 or whatever. And then from there, they have a foundation where they can, build a friendship or, even just a connection off of. So I think that works very well. We've used it in settings where people did need to go a little deeper and establish trust, and it's worked out wonderfully. So I swear by that thing. I do it every chance I get.
That's awesome. I'll put a link up to those 36 questions as well.
Yeah, some of them might need to be edited because they're not necessarily educational friendly, but swapping out some questions here and there.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Craig.
No, I was just, for those who are like, I think people might want to know, what's this Fast Friends protocol and what are these questions? Because I went ahead and looked and I was like, oh, all right now. So whether or not you are friend dating or you might be looking for your boo, I'm like, oh, this could be interesting. Question 10, just for those who also had a curiosity, if you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be? It's like, whoo. You are all up in the business with that question right there.
Yes, indeed. True story. I tried to memorize that list on the first date with my now husband. I love it. As many of them as I can remember, but it was, I don't think he knew what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important for our classroom teachers to realize that we do want to start with low risk, low courage questions instead of jumping, because I'm just get to it. I want deep conversations, but that's really scary if you don't have that trust, like you mentioned. So, as educators, how can we maybe tweak some of those or put a couple up and let kids pick? I feel more comfortable answering this one rather than that one, but I love that protocol. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm still looking at the questions. I was like, oh, okay now. So just for folks who are, just go ahead and give you a little tease. So there's 3 sets of questions. First set of questions is just general, like, we could have, a nice little mocktail or something like that. And you just get to know, what constitutes a perfect day for you. But then there's second set, which pushes a little bit more, like a sample question is, what do you value most in a friendship? And that's like, okay. Now, that you could get with it. But the third set of questions, that right there, you could come away with a fast friend or a conversation like, you know what? I don't know whether or not we mixing and matching today. So just an example of a third, like in the third set of questions, tell your partner something that you like about them already.
Yeah, I love that.
And look, it worked for Dr. Sarah Thomas. She got married.
Hey, yes. Yes, like Beyonce or anti-Beyonce. He put a ring on it. So.
Nice. Go ahead, Krista. Go ahead. You have another question.
Well, I'm just laughing. When I reflect back, I had read a book about these questions as well. And I think to get to that deep level of questioning, like those last third, it can sometimes take 70, 80, 90 hours of being in somebody's company. And so really, this is a way of shortening and being really intentional about connecting people. And when I think about a classroom, when I was teaching high school, I had 7 classes a day, 53 minutes, 25 to 35 kids in a class. And if we're not intentional about how we're creating those connections and giving students a chance to connect socially and academically, it's not necessarily going to happen on its own. So I really liked that this was a piece that you were promoting, Sarah, because it's a nice protocol for teachers to use to think about inside-outside circles, or, we have a new triad here working together. Let me give you a couple of these questions to kind of get you a little bit more comfortable with each other before we dive into academics.
Right. Totally. I hear you.
So I was actually just revisiting a piece that you shared. It's from the teacher's desk, and you all will have to check out the link so you can spell teacher the way it is in your post, how to think outwardly. And at this point in time, I know for me, I've transitioned out of my full-time gig as like an executive director and superintendent, and like I'm an education consultant, entrepreneur, many titles to get to the same thing of having have an opportunity to really take charge of what, my charge in this work and how I go about partnering with others to help them activate the greatest passions and visions. And so this question here, or this blog, really pushed me a lot because you talk about a workshop that you actually participated in that was called Leadership and Self-Deception. And so in this particular post, you talk about the outward and inward, self and lens that we have in this work. And we know so many teachers have felt themselves, and educators and school leaders are finding themselves pushed beyond, places and spaces they've ever thought that they were going to be in. People are doing a lot more introspection to how they're showing up in today's classrooms, especially in the environment that feels so charged today, whether or not we're talking about artificial intelligence, equity work, belonging, LGBTQIA, just so many different things, so many educators still trying to find their way. But I found that this was really refreshing for those who are really pausing for a moment and looking inward and also thinking about their outward self. And so I was really curious as you prepare for this school year, for folks who are going to listen to this at this point in the year. Again, it could be early fall. It could be people just starting up, their classrooms, their school year. I'm curious about the adult SEL work that happens for you and what you might be promoting in regards to the work that you do with your school or the district or even beyond. And I'm curious about, well, what do you feel is very key and critical to today's educators and leaders as they think about adult SEL for themselves and also what they're promoting in the communities and cultures they're nurturing?
Yeah, totally. Before I start answering this, I have to give a huge shout out to a good friend of mine, Mandy Freilich, who has taught me so much about adult SEL. She's written 4 books, one of them being The Fire Within, that talked about stories of resilience and how people came back from adversity to be even stronger. And I learned about, stuff like post-traumatic growth and just all different kinds of things. And she has another book, Reignite the Flames. And I feel like her books and her work is extremely timely, especially now. Like, granted, she wrote these books, like I know The Fire Within was 2018 and Reignite the Flames, I can't remember. I want to say like maybe 2019 or 2020, something like that. But in that, then, I mean, after coming back from remote learning, hybrid, pandemic, like that was a collective trauma that we all faced. And, and coming back from that, then our profession is right now we're at a critical state. Like I am just hoping and praying and knocking on wood that folks recharge their batteries over the summer and are coming back, feeling in a better place than a lot of folks left at the end of last year. I know that a lot of people were burnt out. A lot of people, there was a lot of attrition. There was a lot of vacancies just around the country. And so that's a very tough situation to be in. And there are no easy answers for that one. And I know a lot of times, we talk about self-care, we talk about, wellness and things of that nature, but it takes all of us. It takes all stakeholders to help to create this environment for our educators. I know way before all of this happened, my very first years when I was a beginning teacher, then I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel professionally safe, and I was not able to be the best educator that I could be. It wasn't until maybe year 4 or year 5 when I was in more nurturing environments, environments that allowed for me to take not calculated. Calculated is such like has such a bad connotation to it, but take risks in the interest of my students. Learn things, try different things that I learned at PDs and professional learning and things of that nature, without the fear of, if this doesn't work out, then I'm going to get in trouble. Things like that, little things like that. That goes a long, long way. And I understand that the stakes are high for everyone, but just a little grace just goes so far. I think that that's one of the things that we collectively have learned over the past couple of years, especially. So just, taking care of each other. And who said that? Jerry Springer, RIP to Jerry Springer. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I think that yeah, that might be the best way to sum it up. But yeah, we all need each other. We all need communities. We all need that support network, whether it's in our school and or outside of our school. So, a lot of folks right now are connected. If they're not, then I would highly recommend for them to get connected to a personal learning network. If they're using social media, there's a community of educators there somewhere. I'm sure in most cases. So yeah, so those would just be kind of like my inner ramblings on that question.
No, I was just I was going to add that what you share as just some steps for folks that you engaged in following this workshop of just talking about practicing empathy. And knowing that today it's so needed, regardless of whether or not you are at the beginning, middle, or end of whatever is the chapter for you, and then listening actively. And I think that if so many more folks just listened, like not coming with your own agenda, not trying to project out like what it is that you feel is important to you, but maybe you'll garner so much more by listening. And that might be what's listening to your body. It may be listening to someone else. It may be listening to some of your podcasts and webinars and things like that. Like, how do you listen and garner what could actually be game changing for you in small and big ways? And there's some other things. So we're going to pop this blog post into the resources that folks can check out. But I found it just to be really timely as I read and reread this piece that you wrote, and I think about the broader scope of where we are in today's environment.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And similarly, Craig, I was thinking too that from a tech perspective, I think sometimes, okay, maybe this is me, but in my experience, I had tech directors and who were very tech focused without seeing the integration and the instructional piece. And so it was all about kind of the hardware. And then I had some amazing leaders who really saw the intersection of the technology and the curriculum and the instruction, and really worked on creating that safe space with the trust and the empathy and the grace. And I'm wondering, Sarah, in your position in a large district, could you talk to either specific examples of how you cultivate that trust with staff and help them build that sense of well-being and safety? Or what would you recommend for people in similar positions? Like, what suggestions would you recommend to them?
I love what Craig had just mentioned about listening. Listening and just connecting and creating that culture where we're all human beings first, and just being able to recognize that and recognize the fact that not everything's going to go, perfectly every single time, especially when we have devices involved, but really in life, nothing always 100% of the time goes according to plan. And when that happens, just being able to just take a step back, take a breath, and come to a solution together. Like listening once again, listening to people at all different in all different roles, involving our students in these conversations, involving parents in this conversation, so that we're able to find a resolution that meets the needs of as many people as possible. It won't be 100% of the people 100% of the time, but being able to just be flexible and have that grace and show that respect and compassion to folks, I think goes a very long way.
Thank you. I think fantastic. There were a lot of great gems and takeaways there.
Thank you so much.
So I was sorry, I got caught up because I was looking at there's a post you made earlier in the month that talked about, some of your favorite songs. And so, I love the connection of music and SEL, and I've developed a little bit of a playlist. So according to your post August 4th, you talk about 2000, early 2000 songs that you sometimes cry to. Now, one of the three I'm very surprised about. I want to know a little bit more about why that song makes you cry. Because you got Don't You Forget, Glenn Lewis. Love that. Still Ray, Raphael Sadiq. Back that ass up by Juvenile. Well, love it. Like what emotion surface for
okay
for that song from my hometown?
It's crazy because when I just had a daughter last July, not this one that just passed, but July before that. And there was one day when that song came up in my car, and I just, everything made me emotional at the time when I was pregnant. I was just like, oh my gosh, this song reminds me of college. Like, not that I was like out there doing, dancing to this song, even though I kind of was. I'm not gonna lie, we were all 20 once. So, yeah, but that song had me kind of thinking of old times. But that's funny because I put that post on social media because I have like a very dry sense of humor sometimes. And a lot of times people don't know when I'm joking or when I'm telling the truth, when I'm being straight up. And I think that most people took me seriously on that one. But it was just like a one-time cry just because I was just like, oh, yeah, so much time has passed.
Mm-hmm. I think that's that's one of those great questions that you can ask folks in the beginning of the year. So I mean, it's a great icebreaker for those who are like, how do we break the ice and building community and connection, and like what song gets you emotional, as they come up. And so
for sure.
Love that. Would love to, just continue the conversation around. I know that you're a big advocate for equity work and digital citizenship, and at this time, I know we are trying to work with our wonderful educators who are entrepreneurial in their own way, because every school leader is like, hey, we want to see you kind of make these kind of moves. Like, we really just want to see some alignment. But we got some folks who are a little off the fringe, like, I'm gonna kind of do my own thing. And so at this time, when we talk about digital equity, and I know that you're a very big champion for that, and I would love for you to kind of enlighten folks today. Well, what does that mean? How can we connect that to continuing to build really great collaborations among educators, whether or not they're in their classrooms or not? But we're also talking about how do we continue to foster the kind of social emotional skill sets and that happen among young people as well as our educator community, especially in this environment where everyone wants to say what they want to say in all these different ways and mediums. However, we want to make sure that folks have access, that their voices are not quelled, and then we continue to cultivate innovation at this time. So I'm just kind of curious about what does it mean when you talk about digital equity? How does that play a role in today's classrooms and schools?
Yeah, totally. So regarding digital equity, then a lot of times when folks have conversations about it, then they kind of stop with access to devices, access to bandwidth, access to funding. But it goes a lot deeper than that. There's things like access to transformational learning opportunities, for example. So when we're thinking about what are we doing with our students? Like, a lot of times people might put a lot of money into these programs that might do drill and kill, but that's not the same as investing into, authentic learning opportunities for our students. So something like that. And in addition, access to high quality teaching. And that goes to us being literate as educators in order to help our students kind of navigate this whole digital space. And it's wild because I co-wrote the book with my friends, Regina Schaefer and Dr. Nicole Howard, back in, I want to say we started working on it in 2017. And I started doing presentations on it like in 2018. And one of the things that I talked about a lot was the deep fakes, because they were just starting in 2018. But now, if you see the deep fakes nowadays, they are just beyond belief, to the fact where they're actually putting them in TV shows to bring people back from like 40, 50 years ago, and you can't tell the difference, and it's crazy because, I remember being a kid and folks saying, don't believe everything you read because people can manipulate that. Don't believe everything you hear because people can manipulate that. But video never lies, and now it does. So how do, teaching ourselves how to navigate these things so that we can help our students in this space. So a lot of that, that all ties into digital equity for me. It's crazy because now I'm seeing that people are creating videos. I want to say that somebody figured out a way how to do it in Midjourney. Like, I pay $10 a month for Midjourney, and I'm getting like all of these crazy images that are so lifelike and realistic. So pretty soon we'll get to a point where it's going to be seamless. Where folks are just creating whatever they can imagine. And they have like a thing on, I forgot the name of the tool right now, but it's on Discord, where folks can like have AI just create a whole song for them. Like, it will create the music, it'll create the singer, and they have AI that will make it sound like a certain singer or rapper is making the song. So it's pretty wild out there right now.
Yeah. How do you encourage those who are nervous about what feels authentic and created generative and like is generated from the human being versus AI? And so I think that for school, at least for school leaders, and we're thinking about this, like I saw a post yesterday, the day before, where a teacher saw that 50% or more of the like prompts, the responses from students were generated by AI versus them being created by the students themselves. And so how do we find balance? What would you, advise teachers and staff members and leaders who are thinking through this? How do we get comfortable with this generative world that creates this level of innovation as far and wide as the mind can think and conceive, but also do it in a way that yields integrity as well?
Yeah, I don't have a source to cite this quote from, but I heard somebody say once, trust but verify, when it comes to just really anything. Like, I think it was in a business book, like trust, but, double check. So fact check, everything that comes through. If it looks too good to be true, or if it looks too out there, then, look for sources to back it up from reputable sources. But in addition to that, then with the students generating the assignments through artificial intelligence, then I hear a lot about that. That's happening quite a bit. But I think that that one thing that I heard that really resonated with me was somebody saying, help them to use these prompts to create better work. Like, have them, give them a good understanding of the foundation. And then once they have these tools at their availability, then they can use the tools to refine their work and make it even better. So not to do everything for them, but they have to have that baseline understanding of how to do it in order to bring it to the next level. And I think that that's my goal as well. Like the things that I know how to do, then I'm going to use these tools to help me do them better, help me do them faster, be more productive with them. And I think that might be an approach to our students. It's still early on in the game with generative AI. So, we're still figuring out best practices, but that's my initial approach.
We love to ask our guests, what do you believe is your superpower? So, Sarah, what do you believe is your superpower?
Oh, okay. My superpower, I would say, that's a good one. I feel like I need to think about that a little bit. But I guess my initial response would be, okay, I'm gonna actually cheat. My friend told me yesterday what he thought was that I did really well. So I'm going to take what he said. And he says that I take ideas and I run with them and just make them happen. And so I will accept that. Like, I don't always make them good, but I would definitely be the first to, if an idea comes through and if I have the bandwidth to give it a shot, and get really, really excited about it. So, yeah. I guess that would be it.
Okay. We will take that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for folks who are who are excited and motivated, and I'm just telling you, I'm on Twitter, or AKA X, like whatever you want to call it today. And what I really appreciate about Sarah, what people can garner just in the first few scrolls is that you are a continual learner. Like you're sharing podcasts you're listening to. And I mean, there's such variability. We know that you are running an incredible organization that's doing phenomenal work as well. They have a number of really great books and online courses and digital learning and community that exists. And so for folks who are really trying to stay connected with you, what is your recommendations on how they can stay connected to you, plugged in, or even reach out?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for your kind words. And thank you all for having me on here. Like, this is super, super great to be able to chat with y'all. Anyone who wants to connect with me, I am happy to connect. I am on all the socials at Sarah the Teacher. So that's SarahDateechur. And my website is sarahjanethomas.com, and EduMatch is edumatch.org.
Well, SCLity to you, family. It has been an incredible time with Dr. Sarah Thomas. Please make sure you check out all of the things, all of the gifts, all of the gems in our post of today's podcast. And we are excited that you will actually connect Sarah in so many ways, and promise it is a gift that keeps on giving. So until we return again for another conversation and another time to get nestled together real close, right? We will wish you and your loved ones all of the light and love they need. And so just continue to hold yourself real dear and real tight. And we want to wish you well as you continue to stand in the light. We love you. You take care.